She's a beauty. She's a 1 in a million car. Yeah, baby. Feast your eyes on the 2023 Genesis G70. It is a compact sedan, the smaller of the Genesis clan of sedans, sedan clan, and it is a work of art, in my opinion, as far as being a very long, smooth, beautiful car. And it has a lot to show us. It has a lot to tell us. But will we listen? Oh, hell yeah. Yes, indeed. The thing that just grabs my, and I mean grabs my attention, is those beautiful Brembo brake calipers. You know, Brembo's made brakes for all kinds of things. I was first made familiar with them on the motorcycles that race on the road, but I've since learned that they do everything. They've made brakes, I think, for well, I don't know if they did for the space shuttle, because I know that was Galfer brake pads that did, I think. Boy, am I just making stuff up? I don't know. But the fact is, this G70 is imbued with excellent brakes. I can testify to this already. And they're very smooth and progressive and wonderful. And they even look good. I mean, when a car company goes as far as starting to make even the brakes look good, you know there's a bit of an attention to detail going on. That's what they're all about, you know. Yeah, we got your performance, we got your handling, we got your quietness, we got your luxury. But look, we sweat the details. And this is a fine little, it's funny, this car is actually not a big car. It is actually fits right in the compact class, but it looks so long and low and purposeful. A screaming Mimi of a car. Yes. So let's go right to where the fun starts. Beneath this is kind of a great grill because it's kind of ND, as we say in the film business, nondescript. But it sure gets your attention, doesn't it? And you can also look at the sloping of the hood here. It's real aerodynamic, the way that it slopes all the way down like that. Beautiful. Let's dig in, shall we? Never underestimate the power of what's under the hood. Wow, in this case, it's a handy little 3.3 liter V6 engine with not one but two turbochargers, twin turbocharging. Now, as you know, I constantly complained about, I don't like turbocharging, it's too complicated, it's gonna break, and the little things are gonna stop spinning and making horsepower, and there I'll be on the side of the road without any coolness. Well, that is unlikely to happen, but what they've done so well with turbocharging, especially on this car, is they have really filled out the power band, especially down low. Now, in the old days with turbocharging, it was quite the opposite. You really had to wring them out to get to the power band and get those turbos spinning up, producing power, helping to produce the ram air effect and all the things that makes turbocharging. But this thing's kind of amazing because it produces 375 horsepower at 5,800 RPM, which is kind of up there, but it's not excessively high. And by the way, that's on premium fuel because, you know, I know you people. you're into self-torture. It's just not enough that regular is expensive, so let's get some premium and really make it expensive. But the torque figures are what really interests me. It has 391 pounds of foot-pounds of torque, and the torque range, the torque peak, if you will, the value I just gave you, it makes anywhere from 1,300 RPMs, way low down there, all the way up to 4,500 RPMs. To me, that is quite an accomplishment. And it's actually a very nice, this is the thing about Genesis, is they're really going for the up-end market by, again, sweating the details. And the engine compartment is beautiful on this thing. Look at the way these coolant hoses right up here, they join together as one. Well, actually they don't at all, but that's how they tie into the intercooler system, which I believe is up in the radiator array somewhere. You got to have your intercoolers. But if I back up a little bit, you can see very clearly over here, right here, and over here, right here. What do we got? We got twin air filters to go in your twin intake system. With your, I imagine, yeah, it's GDI, which is gasoline direct injection. So man, what a nice motor, huh? And even the engine bay is beautiful. And even when it gets dirty, because it's fairly clean. You know, when I get these press vehicles, you never know what kind of condition the engine's going to be in, because you never know what hideous thing the previous journalist did to it. But it's really nice when they show up, and this is such a new car that it's still very, very clean, as the makers intended. And you get a real good look at what you're buying, which is fantastic. Nice engine, huh? It even drives better than it looks, I assure you. As I stealthily sneak up from behind here, let's have a look at the trunk. Look at that, power trunk. That's very luxurious. I feel luxuriated already. And here, it is actually a lot roomier than you might expect for a compact, and it even has a what I consider to be a fairly generous trunk opening here. It's pretty cool. And what's this? Oh, it's our little Monroney. Let's have a look, shall we? Oh boy. I didn't mention this before, but this is an all-wheel drive version of the G70, and it's also a Sport Prestige model, which has a base price of $46,750, and with all the goodness and wonder, including the Sport Prestige package, we come in the $56,445. Now, for everything on this car, including how nicely the interior is furnished and the excellent performance and everything else, I think that's a pretty good price in this day and age, especially once you're running up against the big dogs from Mercedes, Lexus, Infiniti, BMW, Audi, all those. That's what they're after. That's the market they're going after. And they, you know, they want it. They want these boys to know that, well,
I'm coming for you.
Now see, if you substitute Ricky Bobby for a fella from South Korea, that's pretty much what's going on. So anyway, all part of this beautiful sculpted line. I do like the lines on this car a lot. And it looks so low to the ground, and it is. And that does help handling, because obviously lower center of gravity and all that good stuff. But there is so much to show you on this car, so let's get on with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your viewing pleasure, I present the instrument cluster on the Genesis G70. Very amazingly hybridized in that, if you look to your left side where you see the speedometer, that is a mechanical speedometer, and just below it is a mechanical fuel gauge. On the right, however, our tachometer is completely virtual in nature. So can you tell the difference using video? I don't know if you can or not, but they're both very legible, very clear, very, my favorite word when it comes to things that I like that aren't overly complicated, straightforward. And you have your central computerized device there, that's kind of like a high class trip meter is what I like to refer to it. But there you got a bunch of different settings you can put it on. And look at there, oil temperature, even measures torque and your level of turboing. If I give it some gas here, you'll see the torque come up, but they don't seem to be bothering with the turbo at this time. Must not be necessary. Interesting. Other direction, sorry. Then we have our engine temperature and our tire pressure, which we have to be rolling in order for the sensors to display what the tire pressure is. And then we have our attention level. Last brake was 6 seconds ago. Let's reset that. Okay, last brake. And there's our attention level, which is, I can't really tell what that means. I feel attentive. I think I am. And there's your digital speedometer. And there's your accumulated trip information. So, interesting stuff. Very easy to follow. And if we go over here to our main cluster, we have a nice widescreen display which has a map on it at this time. Incidentally, the nature of the instrument cluster is such you can't change themes the way you can with a lot of other Genesis, Hyundai, Kia products. Largely, I think, because of the design of the being partially mechanical. So anyway, it's great though. It's a very good instrument cluster. No complaints whatsoever by me. Then we have our main settings. Then we have our climate control area that does not somehow morph into something else like a certain Kia we talked about not too long ago. Very straightforward. Then below that you got places to plug in some of your accessories like your USB, and this right here, this area right here is chock full of electricity for your smartphone. You put the smartphone down here. Then we get to the gear selector. Now the gear selector, interesting, because I find it a bit confusing in this respect. It's a typical type of gear selector we're all used to right here, except for one thing. You have drive down here, you have reverse up here, but normally, what do you do with this kind of a T-grab? You normally, just out of habit, if you want to go into park, what you do is you put it into park like that. Well, you do that and you're going in reverse. So what you have to do is press this button here. You see, it has a park button. So it's a combination of a button and a slide T or a conventional gear selector. So I find that very interesting. And your manual modes, of course, you have your paddle shifter. There's one. And that's pretty straightforward. In order to go into manual mode, I believe you just start paddle shifting. That's what I did, and it seemed to work. Then we have our drive mode selector, which includes Sport, Sport Plus, Custom. Gotta go up. Comfort and Eco. That stands for especially caustic organism. No, that doesn't. I lie. It actually stands for economy or ecologic. Well, however you want to look at it. Then you have your park selection. Your camera selector, which again we have your standard rear camera, and then you have your 360 camera. And there is no dedicated front setting, I don't think. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Let me just go back and look. Oh, yes, there is. There's a different, let me change the picture. Look at that. That's a good one. That's overhead and behind you. That's very nice. Then you got this, which is to the rear and back. And there. How do I get back to the ordinary? Oh, that's it. And there's our ordinary one right there. I see that. That's fascinating. It's totally fascinating. There we are. So, it's very, very, for Genesis. Genesis has, in my opinion, gone a little over the top on some of their higher end models. And this being sort of a, for lack of a better term, a compact slash entry-level Genesis, which means it's loaded with luxury and performance, but it just doesn't have as many bells and whistles, to which I think is great, because I think it has everything you need and not the stuff you don't. That's one of the ways I look at it. You'll notice it doesn't have a heads-up display. Okay, well, it does, but I turned it off. So, a very straightforward interior, very pleasant place to drive long, excuse me, long distances, as I choke to death. I did take a trip in it, and not too far, but it's a very pleasant place. As you'll see when I'm on the highway, it's a very nice driver, and especially good if you don't need a whole lot of interior real estate. You don't need a big car. You simply need a very nice, luxurious car for yourself and perhaps 2 or 3 people. We'll talk about the rear seat in just a minute, but that's your front seat area, and it's a good one.
If you will join me, the door is open. Let's go inside, shall we?
Oh, eh. Now I have the front seat fairly far back, and it's pretty much close to my legs, but not totally on my legs. So it is a compact car, and you don't have beaucoup de rear seat room, although if you're 5'8" and shorter, I think you'll be very comfortable. If you're 6'4", you'll have issues. It also has a fairly large drive shaft tunnel, as you can see down there, because this is after all an all-wheel drive vehicle. My God, what is wrong with my voice? Perhaps it's that 75 mosquitoes that I just swallowed when I walked in the car. But we also have some nice amenities, and as always, we get you. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a very nice armrest. You know, you'd be amazed at how many cars I test where the armrest is like up here. It's like really awkward, and it's like they're automatically assuming no one's ever going to use that armrest. Well, I use them when I'm in the back seat, because I like having my arms sitting up like that, like I'm in some kind of executive suite situation. But the leather quality, I believe, is Napa. I have to look it up. Is very, very nice. Matter of fact, the whole car does have that feeling of quality. And look at these fine map lights. They're very, very luxurious in their way. And you got that dark headliner made of everything. But it looks great in this car. It's kind of flashy initially when you walk in, the way the upholstery is, because you got those beautiful pleats and everything else. But you get used to it and realize this is a very nice quality piece. So that's what they're after, these Genesis people. They want your business by selling you a quality piece, and they're working hard at it. And this is a nice car. But here we are, as the car continuously is telling me it's time to take a break. I don't like those things, because that means the car is watching you from somewhere. There's a camera somewhere watching you. Everywhere you go and everything you do. Of course, that's just society. And this year, 2023, even though it's really 2022, but even then, they mess with you, telling you, oh yes, this is a car from the future. This car basically doesn't exist until January 1st, 2023, and yet, here you are driving it. Strange that. But we are heading south. We have navigation. We have a navigator, I should say, in the form of a little black computer, and it could be a black box. Most computers are in black boxes, but not all of them. But the one that runs this one is actually mostly software.
Railroad crossing.
Oh, and there's another one. I am loaded with all kinds of information. I have a phone that's telling me I'm approaching a railroad crossing, and it's giving me about almost a half-mile notice that there's a railroad crossing. So It's looking out for me, there is no question. So what of this Genesis? We're certainly enjoying our ride here. We are in comfort mode, and I will try some of the other modes a little bit later. But I had to pass some farm machinery not far from here, and the car's acceleration was, let's just say, sprightly. With your twin turbocharged V6, it's quick. It's real quick. Almost abrupt. Almost like hitting the afterburners in them shows from the 60s and 70s when we didn't know as much about rocketry as we do now. But that's real complicated stuff, that physics in space when you hit the boosters and everything. But we won't get into that here, because while this car is quick, I do not think it is that quick that we're going to have to talk about fluid infusion and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I really like about the G70 is the steering feel of the car is excellent. And they talk about this car has got some real serious engineering going on to make it handle well. And one of the most interesting things about it to me is it wasn't too long ago that you may remember I tested a GV60 all-electric Genesis, and that car really handled well. Very flat cornering, very secure feel, largely, or I should say largely too, but aided by the fact that there's about 1,000 pounds of batteries on the lower part of the chassis excuse me, that tends to anchor it, if you will, to the road. And this car, they have said, it doesn't have that, since this is a conventional gas engine, regular transmission type of thing. Rear wheel drive primarily, but also front wheel drive through the all-wheel drive system. But they've mentioned that they've lowered the car quite a bit as far as the chassis being lowered to the pavement to help handling, and then that they have imbued it with an unusually wide stance, all with the desire to make sure that the cornering stays flat and secure. And because when you're in the luxury sport class like this car is, you want to run with the big dogs, with the Mercedes, with the BMWs, with the Audis, all of those things. And they do a pretty good job, I think, because this is a very responsive car. This is one of these car names, car marks, if you will, that's part of a larger car company. In this case, Hyundai is the parent company. And they've really worked hard year to year improving these cars. I'm very impressed. One of the things I love about it, this is like their smallest sedan. And one thing it doesn't have that I love is on some of the larger sedans, you have this big ring controller for your touchscreen. And it's this great big thing right here. It looks like a glittering donut, except flat. And I hate it. I have real hard problems with navigating it, because it just doesn't feel comfortable to me in my hand, and it's not very well, let's put it this way, it doesn't seem to be the best way in the world to control a touchscreen. And this car does not have that. This car has a touchscreen that you actually touch, and I think that it's very effective, because everything, see, that's another thing they're going for, in addition to the excellent handling, is simplicity. They like the idea of this being a fairly simple, straightforward car that you feel comfortable in. Right when you sit down in it, you can find everything. And that's, I love that, because some people in this day and age may find that boring. But when it comes to a car that you're going to be driving a lot, I will always like the engineers to spend more time on making it handle and brake and accelerate and deliver years of reliable service, much more than having gadgetry. Even though gadgetry can definitely be fun and entertaining until it doesn't get entertaining anymore and you're just tired of it. But a lot of the tried and true stuff that we've been driving with in cars for many, many, many years is there for a reason. It's because it works, and people don't get tired of it. They're perfectly happy. They expect certain things out of their car when they get in it and head to their destination. This thing's real interesting in that it has a mix of instrumentation, which either I'll go into or have already gone into. But we have on the left side a mechanical speedometer with a mechanical gas gauge, and on the right side we have a virtual tachometer. It looks just like the mechanical, except you'll note it's flat television basically. Now you see, you just touch the gas on these turbos and they just leap right out of your hands if you're not careful. But as you can see, the cornering is quite good. Shifting is good. And I'm in the comfort mode right now. I'm not in the sport mode. Who knows what might happen if I entered the sport mode. I might have left Connecticut and I might be down in North Carolina already without even knowing it. But now's our highway test where we will examine how she does. And immediately when you hit the cruise control on this highway that's marked, the steering immediately assumes the role of steering the car for you. And if I'm not sure what happens if I do this. Good, that gets rid of it. But it looks like the default position may be the steering. Let's see how it does. If it annoys me excessively, I don't want to be excessively annoyed. As you can see, it's doing a lot of steering, and we get a little bit of that. One of the biggest problems I've had with a lot of these lane tracing self-steering systems on these cars is this. It keeps doing this. It keeps going back and forth, and they're tightening that. They're tightening that up. When the first initial versions of this came out in various makes, it would do this, and then over time, it's done this. And there are a few you can get that it doesn't do it. It actually does a real good job of keeping in your lane. This one, we'll just have to see. It feels a little better than average. You know, Hyundai is also the parent company of Kia, and I had a Kia, which I can't remember which model was right off the bat, that really handled the lane tracing beautifully. It was not annoying in the least. The car did not feel like it was constantly fighting you for for lane dominance, about who would determine what part of the lane you're going to be in. But see, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is real common. I mean, I encounter this on all, and believe me, this road is in excellent shape. They repaved it not too long ago, and I've done these kind of tests on all kinds of highways, and they all, you know, if it does it, it does it. It's not something that I'm going to turn it off now because I don't particularly care for that. So, it's still a very quiet cabin, if you can tell. Satisfactory in the quiet department. And visibility out of the car is, it's not bad for a low roofline like this has in this really swoopy sedan structure and design, which makes it kind of a beautiful. Another thing that the Genesis family has done really well is they've really developed their own design language about how the cars look. That's very different from Hyundai or Kia, and very different from the competition, in my opinion. Oh, I mentioned all those other ones. I forgot to mention Lexus and Infiniti earlier, and they definitely build cars that are in this range of performance luxury, and they do a good job. Well, every make, I mean, it's such a competitive class right now, and every make has a fair number of, everybody makes cars and SUVs, and they have some real standout vehicles and some that aren't that great. But the competition is fierce, and when Genesis first got started into this, I didn't think they had much of a chance. Even though the initial efforts were good, And the biggest thing was you got an amazing amount of stuff for a lot less money, but now I feel like the prices are a little bit closer together, but the overall quality of the Genesis product has really gone high. And the only thing I can't tell you, because I don't have any real idea about, is reliability, which is a shame, because that's one of the most important. When I select a vehicle, a personal vehicle, I only do that about every 15 or 20 years. That's my plan anyway. But that's one of the most important considerations if you just like having a car that's not going to give you any grief over time. Reducing my following distance. Whoa, man, I got a crazy weavy Connecticut handy van man. I don't know what he's up to. Sorry, dude, I got the cruise control and I can't possibly alter the speed. Move along a little bit here. Now, the other thing, I don't know what I was talking about a minute ago, but I'm sure it's not important. Oh yeah, reliability. That's such an important thing, because you don't want your vehicle to be in the shop all the time, much less. I think if you get any new vehicle, the odds that you're going to end up broken down on the side of the road are really, really low. The reliability in general is a lot better. And when you see these, and I recommend this highly, when you look at reliability, you look at Consumer Reports, and they report everything that just breaks, that the people in their surveys tell them breaks. But a lot of times it's not the kind of thing that's going to be a major problem for you, as in I can't get to work today. There are things that have to be fixed, but there are things you can fix when you have time to get them fixed. And the warranties, especially with the Hyundai family, the warranties are like 5 years. Just they have Hyundai in particular keeps advertising they have the best warranty in the business, and I think they pretty much do. So that's, imparts a lot of confidence that you're not going to, at the very least, if you do have any problems with it, you're not going to be shelling out a lot of money. This car also has a very solid quality feel. And how do they do that on cars? Well, the lighter the car is going to be for fuel economy and other things, the harder it is to make it feel like you're in a house. But they managed to do this, and they've come up with a lot of different ways of doing that. They use all kinds of fillers in the body panels to help both quiet it down, but also get rid of any potential area of squeaks, vibrations, and that kind of thing. They expect, as a luxury car customer, that you expect for the car to be extremely well behaved, both in its driving manner, and also have a solid quality feel that you paid all your hard-earned money for. So, and Genesis again is doing so much better than they used to, and it's a very, I would never tell anybody, I'd tell anybody that's in the market for like a luxury vehicle that Genesis has some vehicles like that might fit the bill in their class. I would absolutely recommend people look at them and drive them. It's a big investment in once you get to that class of vehicle. This one's not really that bad considering what it's up against. I believe you guys have seen the Monroney. I've forgotten it already. It's 58,000, I think, something like that. This is what happens when you have so many different cars that you're dealing with at once.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire. Sure he even knows where he's at right now.
This makes us all realize the kind of pressure these drivers are under.